Daniel and Kate are driving somewhere and they're coming to a little town.
Welcome to Docker Junction, the friendly town.
Yeah, these wide places in the road are often friendly, especially in TV dramas. There's a school bus in front of them with its red lights blinking, but examination shows there's nobody in it and the locals are breezing past it like it's not there. May as well do the same. Isn't the siren a bit of overkill? They aren't exactly leading you on a high-speed chase. As we expected, it's a trap.
Daniel Weston. Dr. Daniel Weston. Well, Dan, we have an ordinance in our little town relating to the safety of our children.
Well, there weren't any children in the bus.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to cite you on Municipal Code 173, Doctor.
There wasn't even a driver in it.
That's passing a school bus illegally while the red lights are flashing.
Give it up, Daniel. He's obviously practiced this speech a lot and knows everything you're telling him. You can bet he's the one who set the whole thing up. I don't know where they're going, but they'll be delayed a few hours so they can make a court appearance.
The statistics show that the increase in traffic violations is keeping our police so busy that they cannot attend to the serious crimes committed in this state. Therefore, it is the duty of this court to discourage traffic violators and free our police for the more important crimes. Well, what do we have today?
Hear ye, hear ye. The court is in session. The Honorable Harry Mudd presiding. Roger C. Carmel was in a slump of his own making at the time. In 1967, Desi Arnaz created the show called The Mothers-in-Law. It was a basic sitcom about two women who had been best friends forever. Then suddenly their kids marry each other and everybody's in-laws now. I enjoyed it, so did my parents. It featured major TV figures Eve Arden and Kay Ballard, as well as Herb Woodley and, of course, Roger C. Carmel. My family seems to have been one of the few that actually watched the show because ratings weren't good. Arnaz and NBC reached an agreement to make one more season, but nobody would get raises in salary that year. Everybody went along except old Roger here. Word is that he decided he was too important to the show to make concessions, so he said, "I get my raise in my contract or I walk." Producers in the network said bye-bye and hired Richard Deacon in his place. Fans of the original Dick Van Dyke Show will recognize him as Mel Cooley, the target of dozens of Maury Amsterdam's jokes. He filled the role better than Carmel ever did, but the show still didn't take off and was canceled after a second season. Thing is, his antics infuriated a lot of people in Hollywood. Suddenly he couldn't get work, and if he did, it was bit part crap. He started making a comeback in the early 1980s by doing voice work for cartoons, but that didn't last long. One night in 1986, he complained of chest pains and called for a cab to take him to a hospital. Why he didn't call 911, I shall never know. The cabbie waited. The doorman tried to call up to let him know it was there, but there was no answer, so he sent the cab away. Next day, someone discovered Mr. Carmel's body. By all appearances, he was on his way to the door, collapsed, and died from some sort of heart trouble. He was a whopping 56. Right now, he's a corrupt judge who's all set to fine Daniel $465 for passing the school bus. That's roughly $2,500 today. He started fiddling with a calculator on the desk the instant he sat down, so it's not hard to sort out what's going on here. Daniel refuses to pay, but his other options are set a trial date or do 20 days in jail.
Your Honor, I'll pay the fine under protest. Do you have a pen I could use?
No checks.
No checks?
No checks.
Well, we don't carry that much cash.
You're allowed one phone call.
If you reverse the charges.
Isn't that convenient? While he's on the phone with Walter's office, the cops bring in another couple. He got them for passing the school bus, too. This is a nice little racket they have going here. The best thing the Westons can do is pay the fine, get out of here, and call the feds.
That'll be $235, including court costs.
I haven't got that much money. I didn't know where I'd get that much. We're on a honeymoon. We just got married this morning.
Hello, Janice, it's Daniel. Is Walter there, please?
I don't know what's up with that little red book in his boot, but he starts searching their suitcase. He says he's looking for contraband. He finds the lady's wedding night negligee and decides that can cover part of the fine. She's never even worn it. Daniel can't stand it.
Hold it. I'll pay the difference.
I suggest you stay out of this, Mr. Weston.
I want to pay the $35.
You're out of order, Mr. Weston.
I'm out of order. This is the most outrageous out-of-order swindle I've ever come across. And not only am I not going to pay the fine, I'm not going to stand here and watch you...
You're in contempt, Mr. Weston. $1,000. And 5 days.
I don't know what he expected. These people do not have consciences. The new bride was begging and they don't care. Why he thought throwing a tantrum would help is anybody's guess. Is there a lawyer in this place?
Yes, sir, Mr. Weston. Right here. Charles Hooton. I am a lawyer.
And the town controller and the town treasurer.
Yes, ma'am. I can accept that check. Make it out for $500. Consider it a retainer, of course.
Well, no disrespect, Mr. Hootens, but don't you think there might be a slight conflict of interest?
He tells Walter, I know you used to practice law. We need you here, right now.
Why me? Why not a local lawyer? There must be somebody there.
There's big trouble here. The Clay Resource is going to be in jail for the next 5 days.
5 days?
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. They're allowing me one phone call, and you are it.
If Walter is smart, he'll bring a whole army of lawyers with him and overwhelm these podunks. I also repeat my suggestion to bring the FBI along. They might find this place interesting.
Mrs. Weston, when you're ready to leave, I can recommend a hotel just up the street.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You're welcome.
If it's all the same to you, she'll stay right here with her husband. We all know if she were to get a hotel room, that guy would be at her door trying to comfort her in her time of need. There is no limit to how low these guys will go. She doesn't want his comfort or his tiny pistol.
Weston got anything worth keeping, AJ?
Not so far.
I'll take a look in his car.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're also petty thieves, but we already knew that. There's no oversight in a place like this, and they can get away with anything. We won't see what happened to the newlyweds. Presumably they gave these punks all their money and the nightie and went on their way, having had their honeymoon ruined for no good reason. For all he knows, that's full of explosives that go off upon contact with air. But these guys don't thrive on their intelligence. Greed is everything. It's called a mask. People wear them for fun at parties and such.
Well, guess what we found in a routine search for contraband, Weston? What are these, disguise?
Yes, you're right. It's my cover.
How dare you resort to physical violence? You're a disgrace to your uniform.
The ha-ha judge says a bank was held up in a nearby town and maybe they did it using this disguise. Kate has had enough of these yokels.
This mask is for a New Year's Eve party. A replica mask for me to have some fun with. Now, is there anything else you want to know about our belongings?
They don't have an answer for that. I'm amazed Daniel didn't think of it because it's the easiest explanation.
All right, we're going to check you people out. If you're wanted to have a record, we'll know pretty quick.
If you remove anything, I want a written receipt.
Remove like what?
Well, like that nightgown.
Like that mask, for example. They leave, but not before the sheriff takes a moment to ogle Kate again. Between all this and that punch, she owes him a kick in the oh my goodness, maybe several. They both noticed that the sheriff wrote down that couple's fine in his little red book. If he's been keeping track of all the illegal fines these crooks have been collecting, all they have to do is get hold of the book and they can bring the authorities in to put a stop to the operation. To that end, Daniel starts peeling.
Did you notice the sheriff noticing you?
How could I not notice it?
Well, why don't we take advantage of it?
Oh, Dan, he's such a yuck.
Still, if it'll bring down this scam that's hurting who knows how many people in how many ways, she'll hold her nose and do it.
You know, you got yourself a real oddball there, Mrs. Weston. No offense. Say, I'm sorry about before. I mean, with the husband. Guess I kind of, well, got a little carried away there.
Takes a big man to admit a mistake. I accept your apology.
The word incel didn't exist in 1975, but I'm pretty sure he's one anyway. I'm not sure what kind of woman would debase herself enough to date him.
Oh, excuse me, did you say you could recommend a hotel?
I sure can. Say, how about my really making it up to you? Buy you a drink and a bite of lunch?
He really thinks this is his lucky day. He's waited his whole life to find out what that there kiss a woman thing is like.
Here's to a happy time in Docker Junction.
I'll drink to that.
We can hold it.
He's ready for another round, and somehow his glass seems to be fuller than it usually is. The guy in the hat is listed in the credits as Town Lush, and he may be a little confused because as far as I'm concerned, when I start seeing things like that, it's time to quit drinking and go home to bed.
Do you know how to play chug-a-lug, Bentley?
I sure do, Kate. Down the hatch without stopping and keep 'em coming, eh?
Under the table, something much more interesting is happening.
You don't waste any time, do you, honey? Kate, you're really something.
You're not so bad yourself, Bentley.
He could play footsie a lot better if he'd take those boots off, but we haven't reached that point yet. He starts talking about how he's going to be rich and he's going to get out of this town. Over the past 11 years, he and the judge have collected in excess of $2 million. He has all the records and they split the money 50-50.
That little red book you were writing in, Bentley, is that where you keep your records?
Nah, not that book. It's the big red book. I got all the records.
She says, I'll bet you don't carry that one around in your boot, do you?
No way, honey. I got that one in a real safe place. Listen, it's right in the courthouse locker room.
Nobody would think to look there, until now.
Bentley, you're on duty.
Oh, heck. I'm okay, Judge. Just having a couple before lunch.
Yeah. Well, I want my lunch too. You get back to the courthouse.
Okay, partner. Let me have a check, Jody.
Better see him across. He could get run over. I'm going to follow his honor.
His honor is talking to that lawyer who offered his services.
Last week's receipts, counselor. Come on, Charlie, make your entries.
They have a safe with a big black book. I guess it's the counterpart to the sheriff's big red book. And now Daniel knows the combination for when the authorities get here.
You know, AJ, with your reinvestment program, we're gonna be rich men. Well, it's a good partnership, Charlie. 50-50 all the way.
Wait, he's supposed to be going 50-50 with the sheriff, but he's doing 50-50 with this guy too. 50-50. That's way too many 50s. Incidentally, if the lawyer looks familiar, you may be a patron, because that's Frank Aletter, better known to us as Mac, the lead astronaut on It's About Time. The two of them are off to get something to eat and give that nightgown to the clerk, one Gert by name. Don't stand there and read it. Get out of there and take it to somebody who can act on it. I don't know what he's going to do with it, because suddenly we cut to the courthouse and the jail again. It's time for Daniel's supper.
Chow time, Weston. Hey, Weston, wake up.
Bentley? Why don't we let him sleep?
I was just gonna wake him up for dinner.
By the way, Bentley, how do you feel?
Oh, I'll be okay. Say, I sure hope I didn't, get out of line.
He doesn't remember. The other victim of her scheme was that candle. It was so sloshed it slept it off right there on the table.
Oh, no, of course not.
Good.
Hello, darling.
Did you have a nice nap?
Yeah, solid.
Look, you want to keep him company while he eats?
Well, of course.
Okay.
He was hoping she'd rather go to a hotel room with him, but I doubt she's ever been that drunk. Daniel tells her about Mr. Hooton's book.
That may not be the end of it. There may be other 50-50 partners. It seems that the judge keeps the money, but get the others to keep the records in their own handwriting.
So the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Elementary, my dear Weston.
When he's amassed enough money, he takes off with it and leaves the rest of them holding the evidence. Nice scheme.
Did you get a hotel room?
Yes. Oh, and I went to a place just outside of town called the Roadhouse, and guess who runs it?
Gert, the court reporter.
That tough to guess, huh?
Well, she may be a 50-50 partner, too. Listen, go and see what you can find out there, but be back by 9 o'clock.
Back where?
Oh, meet me across the square in front of the newspaper office.
Walter just arrived in town, and guess what?
There's company for you, Weston. Step right in, Walt.
Well, bringing him here was certainly effective.
I was counting on you, Walter.
I realize that now.
I mean, did you have to tell him the whole proceedings were out of order?
He antagonized me.
Yeah, but did you have to call him an outrageous, open-handed swindler?
Well, I had to blow some steam.
And did you also tell him that you weren't going to let him get away with it?
You too?
It's pretty obvious that the judge deliberately antagonizes and baits people to get them to lose their temper so he can fine them even more. Daniel references a case they had and a couple of guys involved in it. He tells Walter, use your phone call to call them and get them here. I have to go place an ad in the paper.
You were right.
I'm always right. About what?
Gert's a partner. She keeps her records in a green book out at the Roadhouse. I'll tell you about it later. You ready?
I was ready 10 minutes ago. All I need is a few minutes with the presses.
Those presses can be a little dangerous, so watch your fingers. Oh, wait, he can't.
Good evening.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know about the rates for an advertisement in your paper.
Classified, ma'am? How many lines?
About a quarter of a page.
Too late for tomorrow's run, ma'am.
Oh.
Yes, that's a big ad. How about next week?
Oh, I hope by next week it won't be necessary. You sure you can't do it now?
No, we're all bedded down, Miss.
However, they can be proper gentlemen and escort the lady to her hotel. Daniel finishes whatever he's doing and heads back to the jail. The sheriff is being himself.
Still sleeping, huh?
Still sleeping.
Yeah? I think he's got to sign a release form.
Just leave the papers with me. I'll have him sign them when he gets up.
He'll sign it now.
Now, wait a minute. We're entitled to some rights, even in a place like this.
Don't start any trouble, Carlson.
But we've got our rights. That man has a right to sleep just as I have a right to protest.
Not in here, he don't. Back off.
He told Kate he's not married and free as a bird. I'm guessing some kind of buzzard.
All right, Weston, let's go. Wake up. Hey! What's happening?
I'm clouding your mind, such as it is.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the awesome power of the inner eye.
For once, Walter gets to be in on the fun. He starts talking about the incredible power he wields. He can make the sheriff's body do anything, no matter how uncomfortable or crazy.
Watch your right arm. Now your right leg.
Hey, you kicked me!
Not me, Sheriff. My inner eye.
Huh?
Now, if I were you,
I'd get out of here while you still can.
Most of the time, Walter either gets the short end of the stick or he's left holding the bill for whatever Daniel and Kate did. It's nice to see him put one in the W column for a change. That had to be the most fun he's had in years. But right now, I'm impressed with the sheriff's acting. Scott Brady came from a family of actors. His two brothers, Lawrence Tierney and Edward Tierney, were both successful in Hollywood. Yes, his real name was Gerard Tierney. I don't know why he changed it, but after a stretch in the military, he went to L.A. to try and ride his brother's coattails. He was eating at a cafe and a producer noticed his incredible good looks. He offered him a screen test on the spot. Mr. Brady took the screen test and he was terrible. So he went to acting school to get unterrible, and it worked. He had a good career in movies and TV until a progressive respiratory disease claimed him in 1986. His last role was Sheriff Frank in Gremlins. IMDb lists one more credit in 2017, but I have no idea how that came about. Right now, he can't get out of that cell fast enough.
now I've been doing a little homework on the yes yeses and the no nos and the bylaws of the Association of Law Enforcement Officers and the way things have been going around here. I'm not too sure I won't send in a report on you.
Mister, you're nuts.
He's nuts, but your body is the one that was doing an involuntary Batusi. Trying not to anger him seems like a good idea. Meanwhile, he's having the best laugh he's had since who knows when.
What now? What can possibly top this?
Oh, you haven't seen anything yet.
Suddenly, we see people flocking to the courthouse. That would be why. They're here for the free money.
Now listen to me, Charlie. I know how easy you get nervous. I'm telling you, this headline's just somebody's idea of a practical joke. And I'm not about to get panicky. I suggest that you get hold of yourself.
I am nervous, I'll admit it. But the whole town is in that courtroom right now, and they're expecting something.
The judge doesn't care about the whole town. To him, they're just rubes. Let them rant.
Look, I am not only nervous, AJ. I got a funny gut feeling about this thing. We got too much to lose. $1 million each. You know we haven't turned over 1/10 of what we've collected.
Easy, Charlie. Nobody is gonna take our money away.
I want to know what the article says about the source of the money and who gets what.
Now you just get in there and get ready to conduct the prosecution. That fellow Weston's got a surprise coming to him. He's got 3 months coming up of Ethel's home cooking.
Hey, have you guys seen the paper? Oh. What's going on?
Will you get the prisoner? We're ready.
He's ignoring the townspeople. He says he's been doing that successfully for 11 years. But I have a feeling their patience may be coming to an end.
Dan, what's the matter?
Oh, my stomach. I don't feel very well. I gotta lie down.
Are you all right? Shall I get a doctor? Bentley, is there a doctor?
No, I'll be all right in a minute. It's got the chills.
What's the matter with him? He was okay 15 minutes ago.
Oh, he's got a nervous stomach.
Yeah, but he's got to appear in court.
Well, you can plainly see you can't go out there in this condition.
He has to take his head off first.
Yeah, well, who's first up on the docket?
I guess it's gonna have to be you.
It had to be you. Your court date is due. Daniel is off to collect all the ledgers. He didn't have to go far for that one. The others will require transportation. Nice, quiet transportation as long as nobody looks too closely. But that's not likely to happen. Everybody's at the courthouse. Okay, almost everybody. And it took him long enough to reach that conclusion.
All rise. Oyez, oyez, oyez. This court is now in session. The Honorable Armistead Jones presiding. Be seated.
What about this, Your Honor? What are we going to get from you?
Something you don't expect, Riley. Sit down.
Don't let him talk to you that way.
He's determined to proceed as if that paper doesn't exist. Daniel Weston is indisposed, so the first case is Walter Carlson.
You're represented by counsel, Mr. Carlson?
I am an attorney, Your Honor, and I will represent myself. And I've appointed Kate Weston as my associate.
All right. Step forward, Mr. Carlson.
They're not used to defendants having or being an actual lawyer. Hooten is getting nervous again.
You're charged with contempt of court. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
You want a jury trial?
Your Honor, the defense wants a bench trial. We don't need a jury. Mrs. Weston and I are prepared to plead the case. Now, if the court pleases, we will call our first witness.
They have witnesses and everything. This is not going the way the judge anticipated.
The defense calls Miss Gertrude Warako to the stand.
What's this witness being called for?
Just for a few questions, Your Honor.
And we dare you to say no. While Gert is finding herself in a very unusual and uncomfortable position, Daniel has collected her green book from the Roadhouse Cafe.
It's my own business who gives me gifts and who doesn't.
We are speaking of a pink and lacy nightgown.
Object. Sustained.
We object, Your Honor.
Oh?
Overruled. Where are all these questions leading?
I don't know. Oh. Mr. Carlson's defense against the contempt citation, Your Honor, is to establish that one cannot be in contempt of a court which is itself contemptible.
Those two guys Walter is shaking hands with are the guys Daniel told him to call. They just got here. The judge isn't used to being called out like this, and he doesn't like it.
You're out of order, Mrs. Weston. There is no such procedure.
Oh, yes, Your Honor, with all due respect. And I quote on the best authority. 180 NS 2nd, Ohio versus Hackett, in which a judge was later removed from office. 155 Utah, Appellate 244. Is that right, Mr. Craig?
That's exactly right, Mrs. Wesson. And there are precedents in New Jersey, 2 in Arizona, 3 in Delaware.
I object. Sustained.
What's he objecting to and on what grounds? The judge doesn't care. This is a courtroom. He doesn't have to stand for a bunch of legal stuff.
Who are you? What are you doing in this courtroom? Identify yourself, sir.
Certainly, Your Honor. My name is Montgomery Craig, Washington, D.C., Justice Department, Office of the Special Prosecutor.
So they did call the feds. We just didn't know it until now.
Proceed.
Now, Miss Warako, if you'll please answer my question. Who gave you the nightgown?
The tapey.
Louder, please.
Mr. Jones.
The knife is in place. Now let's twist it.
Wasn't that nightgown a part of a fine in the court? Don't the fines go into the town treasury? How could the judge give you something that didn't belong to him?
Suddenly, the people want to know what the town has to show for all the ticket money they collect. Where do the fines go? Eddie Firestone was a character actor whose career started out in radio. He could play most anything you wanted, and if you look at his list of credits, he pretty much did. In his later years, he played a lot of characters like this one, a little grungy, but often the comedy relief. He did several pratfalls and such that I didn't show, and he definitely lightened the mood appropriately.
That woman has turned this trial around. You're on trial here. It's a very clever maneuver. She's got a wedge to look into the fines we've been collecting. If she subpoenas my record book, all those entries are in my handwriting.
Well, I hope it's safe. For your sake.
And there it is, the betrayal we've all been expecting. All of us but Charlie, that is.
The books are on the water cooler in the corridor. Kurtz is green, Sheriff's is red, and Hooten's is black.
Charlie isn't buying it. He's telling the judge, if I go down, you go down.
Let me tell you something else, AJ. For your sake, your protection from the Capitol won't work, son-in-law or no son-in-law.
That explains a lot. He thinks he has friends in high places. But son-in-law won't buck the feds. He'll sit back and say, I barely know the guy.
Because of certain information
I think she may have just wet herself a little.
that's reached the ears of the court, I'm going to dismiss this case. I object! You what?
We object, Your Honor. The defense does not want a dismissal. That's not enough.
Mrs. Weston, this court cited the defendant, and this court can...
No, Your Honor. With all due respect, you can't.
And the judge may be having trouble controlling his sphincter, too. Those books are about to blow this whole town wide open.
Your Honor! Your Honor! I object! I object! This whole trial is becoming a circus. I want to know what this... That's mine.
The court will take those books, counsel.
That green book belongs to me.
Where'd you get that red book?
It's time to compare notes, folks.
To me. Where'd you get that red book? These are Bentley's records. 50% partnership with Armistead Jones.
50% to Gert, and 50% to Bentley, and 50% to me.
We were supposed to be partners, AJ. I set those speed traps and faked those tickets.
I declare recess.
It's called honor among thieves. There isn't any. You've all been had. And he's not going to get away that easily.
A nest egg for a rainy day, Jones. You knew this day would come sometime, huh?
Who's talking?
I am the spirit of 3,000 motorists.
He obviously knew the time would come when he had to split. That's why he had a bag ready and waiting. And I find it fascinating that there's not one person in that other room who knows how to kick in a door.
It's stolen money. Listen to them. They're coming through that door. They're coming after you. Give up, Jones. You can't get away.
Ew, that's a problem. Daniel may not be able to follow him without slicing his feet up. Okay, maybe he can. Good thing it's safety glass. I think we're looking at the new Justice of the Peace.
Mr. Jones, I'm Gerald Benoit from the Internal Revenue Service. I'm interested in your tax returns for the last 11 years.
It worked on Al Capone, and guess what, AJ? You're no Al Capone. My question is, what happens to the money? It was all obtained illegally, so by rights they should track down all the people it was stolen from and give it back. That was an impossible task. So instead, since Daniel was the one who made all this happen, they built a nice statue of him in the town square right in front of the courthouse. What? It looks just like him. There's a school bus. Roger C. Carmel was in a slump of his own making at this time. Book, and they can bring it to the authorities and put the. I'm not sure what kind of woman. One person in that other room knows how to give that nightgown to the glurk.